Welcome to Faith and Freedom. For the next few minutes, we hope to inform, inspire, and encourage you as we discuss legal victories and challenges to your fundamental freedom and religious liberties. Faith and Freedom comes to you from Liberty Counsel, a civil liberties education and legal defense organization. Join us now as Matt Staver, founder and chairman of Liberty Counsel, explains the latest legal issues all across this country. In the courtrooms of America, Liberty Counsel is winning the battle for your constitutional freedom.
The Supreme Court's decision regarding marriage has put religious liberty in the crosshairs. Hi, I'm Matt Staver, founder and chairman of Liberty Counsel. Joining me is Matt Barber, vice president of Liberty Counsel Action. Matt, I think that this decision by the United States Supreme Court with regards to the Federal Defense of Marriage Act has literally put religious freedom in the crosshairs because of the language that Justice Kennedy recklessly used. I think it's an insult to the institution of the Supreme Court how he used this language. And I think it's ultimately put religious freedom in the crosshairs.
It's beneath the Supreme Court, the language that Justice Kennedy used, and Justice Scalia took great umbrage with that language. He basically said that anybody who disagrees with the notion of newfangled so-called same-sex marriage is driven by animus. There can be no possible other reason for not signing on to this novel approach to the institution of marriage. Justice Scalia said to Justice Kennedy, what you're saying is that all of us who believe that marriage is as marriage has been for thousands and thousands of years, that we're enemies of humanity. That was Justice Scalia's language. Very powerful.
And I don't think that is too far of a stretch. I mean, Kennedy says that the legislature of Congress and the president that passed the Federal Defense of Marriage Act in 1996, they had to be motivated by bigotry. They were demeaning. They were insulting. They were filled with hate. They were hate mongers in that respect. Why? Because they affirmed a longstanding understanding of marriage as one man and one woman. That means everyone else that believes in this, marriage as one man and one woman, is also labeled the same thing under Kennedy's and four other justices' opinion. I'm sorry, but the Supreme Court, you don't have the authority to label everyone like that. You did that before with Dred Scott. You did it with Korematsu. You did it with Buck versus Bell, where you said 3 generations of imbeciles are enough. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to accept that from the Supreme Court, that you can just simply label a cross-section of people as bigots and hateful because they believe in natural order of marriage as one man and one woman.
And if 5 radical justices on the United States Supreme Court, and this is a radical decision to somehow divine that there's a constitutional right for what was always considered a crime against nature, for them to point the finger at the Senate and the President of the United States in 1996, who was Bill Clinton, and everybody else who overwhelmingly passed OMA and say you're driven by bigotry, it's very clear. This is by design what they're trying to do. They're setting it up in such a way that under the law they can treat any Christian, anybody who recognizes the legitimacy of the natural law behind marriage, that it requires a man and a woman, a binary relationship, that you are the modern day racist. You're like the KKK. Yeah. And so if they're willing to do that with the
no
Senate,
evidence whatsoever,
with no evidence, what about
the
mom and pop business owner? What about the Christian, the pastor? What about the chaplain in the military? They're easy victims, easy targets, and this isn't hypothetical. We know they're in the crosshairs because in the 13 states now that recognize counterfeit gay marriage, they're already attacking bakers, photographers, people who...
It must mean that the Catholic Charities that was in the Ministry of Adoption in Massachusetts is also going to be labeled with the same label. I mean, when Massachusetts adopted same-sex marriage, the Massachusetts Catholic Charities said, we can't cross that line. Yeah. We cannot cross that line. We will ultimately stop doing adoptions. Now, I think in that particular case, you've seen capitulation. Mm-hmm. You've seen the Catholic Charities capitulate and say, we're not going to do adoption. That's our religious mission to do adoption. We're going to pull out of it. It may be that it's time to come to a point where they say, we're going to continue to do adoption. How dare you say that we can't do adoptions according to our religious beliefs? But that's where the crosshairs are coming. That's where those crosshairs are being focused right now on people of religious conviction. You've got the baker who says, I love to bake, and I bake for weddings, and someone else can bake for the same-sex wedding. I just can't do it. It crosses the line for my religious conviction. They say, no, you got to do it, or we're going to penalize you to do it. We're going to penalize you if you don't do it.
Yeah, they're going to. The government is going to sanction you. We're going to sue you. We're going to file charges against you. The Human Rights Commission or whatever in various states will come after you. You may lose your business. You may lose your customers. You may lose your livelihood and your ability. And that's what they're trying to push Christians to the crowd. But there's nothing new under the sun. This is not and will not. This is not the first time the church has been persecuted, nor will it be the last time. But you think about people who are kind of setting, I think, the template here for how Christians should react to this. A woman like Mrs. Baronelli Stutzman in Washington State, who is a florist, who has open homosexual employees. When a homosexual man came who was a regular customer and said, I want you to do my bouquets and my floral arrangements for my gay wedding, she said, I love you, but I have a relationship with Jesus Christ that will not allow me to do that. It would be a violation of my conscience. Well, Bob Ferguson, the AG in Washington State, brings the full weight of the government down, files charges against her, is fighting her and attempting to compel her, if she wants to hang on to her business, the implication is clear, compel her to make a choice. Either I'm going to bow to the demands of the state and violate my conscience, or I'm going to be faithful to my Lord and Savior and stand on his side relative to the notion of same-sex marriage. I personally, and she did, and I hope others will, stand on the side of truth and natural law.
This is the battle that's coming. Roe versus Wade happened in 1973, and we've lost 55 million or so children in the womb to a bloody battlefield. And people just simply assume that the Supreme Court's decision was legitimate. And we've had all this consequence in its path. But Roe versus Wade didn't force people to have abortion. It prohibited you from intervening, even if you were the father, from stopping that abortion, or the parent from stopping that abortion, but it didn't force you to have an abortion. This here has a coercive component. It will force you to actually capitulate, to comply and to accept, to affirm and to acknowledge. And if you don't, you have to get punished, fined, perhaps even jailed, lose your license, not be able to pursue your profession. That's so much different. When we cross that line, we're crossing into the realm of rebellion. We're crossing into the realm of revolution. When the government puts the full force of the government against individuals and says, you must violate your religious beliefs. And there's no coexistence. There's no understanding your religious belief, but here's this other policy as well. I mean, you may not like it. You don't have to comply with it. You don't have to participate in it. No, this is when the government compels you to violate your religious belief. That's new, uncharted water. I mean, it's charted before in the terms of the early American Revolution. It's uncharted since we gained our independence.
Well, we've seen how it plays out. It's more akin to what we would expect of Joseph Stalin's Russia than it is George Washington's America. And we've seen how that played out for Christians and Orthodox and people of faith in Russia. But you're right. We fought a civil war over issues, before. We've had a previous civil war, and this, I'm not saying that people are necessarily going to start taking up arms, but there is a line that faithful Christians cannot and will not and must not, indeed must not, if they wish to remain faithful, cross and to go against God's design for natural marriage. For me, at least, is that line.
No, it is that line because it is a coercive line when you cross it. Like, for example, the Department of Justice with this Silence is Not an Option campaign for the June LGBT Pride Month, so-called, that if you don't affirm and affirmatively acknowledge and accept homosexuality, then you will be considered to be opposed to it and therefore a bigot, and consequently your job will be placed in jeopardy. Go to Liberty Counsel's website, lc.org, and also marriagesolidarity.com. I urge you to sign on to the Marriage Solidarity Statement at marriagesolidarity.com. MarySolidarity.com. In just a few days, we had over 200 national clergy and leaders from Catholic and Protestant and Orthodox faiths, not agreeing on the individual aspects of each other's faith, but on one thing, standing in solidarity, and that is on the matter of marriage. And I encourage you to do as well. We are living at critical times. Go to MarySolidarity.com and sign your name to that list of others across this country. Also, remember Liberty Counsel in your prayers as we continue to advance and defend marriage, religious liberty, and the family. And we encourage you to also support this ministry with your continued regular financial support. You can call 800-671-1776 for more information.
You have been listening to Faith and Freedom with Liberty Counsel. We hope that we have motivated you to stand up for your faith, family, and freedom. We can accomplish a lot when we work together. Get informed and get involved today. Sign up for our free monthly newsletter, The Liberator. We will send it out to you free of charge. Stay informed with our Liberty Alert email updates. Just click on the website at www.lc.org or call us at 1-800-671-1776. Tune in next time to learn more about your rights right here on Faith and Freedom.